mean, we watched some version of Julius Caesar that has Charlton Heston playing Mark Antony.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, we watched some bizarre shit to just... we watched the Zeffirelli version of Romeo and Juliet with, like, you can see his butt and everything, which now they're, like, suing about that or something.
But that's like the big one.
Because I was like, that's not even...
Yeah, it's age Olivia Hussey. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it. It's got the thing that we all knew when we were watching it was Basil from Austin Powers.
Oh, yeah. He was hot.
He's in it.
Michael York, young.
Yeah, but we were all like, oh, he's the guy from Austin Powers.
True.
Yeah. Hey, Victoria.
Oh, hey, Chelsea.
You know what I could use right now?
No, tell me.
A breath of fresh movie.
What? Cool.
That's a movie I like to see.
Go ahead.
Right on the mic.
Mm-hmm. It's ASMR. There's a lot of you leaned into it. There's a lot going on there.
Thank you.
I don't understand why people are into that.
I don't either.
I get like more on edge.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah. No, I'm.
It really irks me.
I'm not one of those.
Yeah. Good. Well, you probably live a happier life.
Yeah. It used to be like a wonderful little secret ASMR. It was that thing that you would like, what was it called? That thing where you hear stuff, but you can feel it. But now it's like everyone fucking knows everything. Like the internet has kind of just like killed our sense of wonder.
Yeah.
Because you can just Google it. And like, here's the answer.
I was stupid before it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Everybody's too smart.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Get out.
God, everybody knows too much.
They do.
We need people to know less.
We need people to know less so they can know more.
Yeah, we have an epidemic of intelligence.
That's right.
Too many critical thinkers out
So
there.
many.
Stop thinking.
Yeah. You know who are intensely literate? The kids and the outsiders.
Yeah, like let's read Gone with the Wind to each other.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is a breath of fresh movie.
Oh yeah.
A weekly podcast where me, Victoria Harley,
and me, Chelsea Pope,
we watch a movie neither one of us has ever seen before, and then we talk about it.
And then we'll spoilers ahoy. We may not talk about everything, but we'll talk about Ennifering.
So yeah, spoilers ahoy.
Ding ding.
And today's film is The Outsiders, which we kind of tipped.
Yeah.
Which, yes, contains some intensely literate young men.
So yeah, this is one of those movies a lot of people have seen because they had to read the book in school. Or
yes.
did you?
I read the book independently. It was given to me as a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Among a stack of books, because I always got books
Oh, you
at
for
Christmas.
fun.
Yeah.
You did it for fun.
I read it on, well, it's not very long. It's
Sure.
pretty short, and it's written by somebody who, they wrote it when they were a teenager.
Yeah.
Essie Hinton, she wrote this in 1967. It's set in 1965, and it's intense.
Interesting.
It is so much for the kids, and in this way that I remember really being swept up in the story. Because it's about two gangs, and then one night one of them accidentally kills somebody.
It's melodrama for kids.
Exactly.
Like it's like accessible,
and it's so emotional. It's so like
people really like this movie.
They do.
This is. I never had to.
I like the
watch
book.
it in school or
I like
read
the book.
or
I didn't. I think I told you before we started recording. I first became aware of the fact that there was a movie made of it. I think from watching that VH1 show, I Heart the 80s. Mm-hmm. They spent like a segment talking about it. And, so I knew that this movie had everybody in it.
Yeah.
Like that, because there's so many fucking stars in this. So just a quick log line. This is a movie about teen gangs in rural Oklahoma, the Greasers and the Socials, or the Socias.
Socias, yeah. My mom was always like, "That's what we didn't." Oh, you remember calling like people preps?
Yeah, right. He's
that
prep.
was prep.
He's a preppy, or he's a jock, or you're this. Yeah, they're preppy kids.
And my mom's like, we used to call them Socias.
Socias. That's so funny. So the Socias are at odds. And then when a brawl ends in the death of one of the social members, Ponyboy and Johnny have to like beat it out of town. And basically them and the rest of their greaser buddies have to contend with the consequences of their violent lives. And that's the best way to put it. I mean, we've kind of already
It's like this, it's all this it's all this back and forth, all this stuff's happening.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm just going to read out.
All this stuff happens.
I mentioned that there's a lot of people in this movie, so here's a quick list.
Yeah.
So we just get it out of the
Yeah.
way. Some of these names are bigger than others. C. Thomas Howell, Matt Dillon, Ralph Macchio, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, Tom Cruise, Diane Lane, Leif Garrett's in there somewhere, and Tom Waits has a role in this. And there are other people too, but those are like the big names.
It's a lot of people.
I mean, Tom Waits literally is in maybe one scene, has one line, but I'm like, yeah, there he is.
All right, there you go.
Perfect.
There you go. She came for Tom Waits.
Yeah, I did. So this is Checkpoint Chelsea.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think it matters.
it doesn't matter
I
because,
don't
like,
think it
yeah, read the
matters.
book. It's really.
I think people don't watch this movie because there's. I don't think that there's any. There's suspense to it, but I don't think revisiting it. I don't think people love this movie because it's got that suspense element.
And
or
it's
something.
likely that people have perhaps read it. And so it's not the plot it's more how are they going to bring this to life?
I think just like so many people, this was some sort of like rite of passage.
It does seem to be. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, I didn't have that, but some people,
Yeah.
or like Stand and Deliver was something that was played a lot in class. I never saw that. There are definitely other
Stand
books
by
that I
Me,
didn't.
you know.
Oh yeah, well, I did see that one when I was
Okay.
young though, but. Yeah, there's a lot of these like coming of age movies I haven't seen.
I mean, forget though everyone else. What did you think? Like when you first started it or when the credits roll at the end, like what were you feeling? Like, yay? Was this sleepy? I mean,
Yeah, it's really it feels long. I think just because there is so much happening. There's so much back and forth, and they go to so many different settings. There's a lot of these young lads that kind of look similar. I get the name. Was getting names mixed up a lot.
yeah,
I'm kind of dumb. No. I enjoyed it. I think it actually surprised me. The tone and commitment. Earnestness. Everything is so dramatic and intense.
Yeah.
The turn, the Do It for Johnny.
Do
with
It
the
for
stabbing.
Johnny.
He turns his back and stabs in the pillow.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're making like some choices. There's some good stylistic choices here.
The word you used earlier, melodrama, I think is right on.
Yeah,
I think that's right
when
on.
Ponyboy first wakes up in the park and Johnny's like, oh, I killed the guy. Oh shit! Like,
or just like come on, we're running away.
it's like the angles they were doing of that too.
Yeah.
It had that very noir.
Yeah, it is worth. Okay, so we haven't
Energy.
mentioned this. This is directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Now that like almost brings a chuckle sometimes from people, I think, because it's an unexpected. I think because we just think of him as like The Godfather, and Apocalypse Now. But the truth is, he really loves these kinds of personal movies, and this was like essentially him having some fun. So I think what you're just saying, like there's a certain the quality of the filmmaking is very high.
Yeah.
There's interesting shots and angles, and although they filmed pretty much everything in Oklahoma on site, that great sunset scene was done on like rear projection, in a studio. So there is just a little bit of fantasy, and at the moment that it counts, right? When they're like thinking about the greater things, and where he's reciting that Robert Frost poem. Again, these are literate punks. I'm telling you.
They're very,
They're so
it's
literate.
very, poetry's for boys.
Poetry for
this
boys.
is a very like, it's okay to be sensitive, introspective. It's like Dead Poet Society for the streets.
Yeah, for the streets. And it also kind of reminds me of, I'm thinking about this moment in Bored to Death where one of the characters, they're both male, he says, are men emotionally unavailable? He's like, well, yeah, just not to each other. And there's something really like emotionally naked about these scenes.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder about what happens when a woman is present, how different like they act or things. I don't know. It just
Well, we see, in the movie theater, there's like the pursuit of women is the activity.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yes.
Like that's the
right. That's the whole reason Cherry gets out of the car.
Yeah.
Because her boyfriend's like trying to go too far.
Yeah.
He was going too fast for her.
Yeah.
I thought things I learned were you can cut hair with a switchblade.
Yeah, but he
not
was
well.
really like he was getting on the scalp or something. I
think he was just tugging really hard.
Oh,
like I don't
okay.
because I at least I hope I don't because I'm like damn
Yeah.
Otherwise,
well,
that's
it turned out fine.
yeah, right. It looked pretty good.
It looked, it turned out okay.
I know. Also,
Wasn't too uneven.
yeah, literate punks. Yeah, they're reading Gone with the Wind as entertainment. I fucking love that. But of course, like, what else would you do? I mean, that's actually pretty, like, I listen to some history podcasts, a couple of different comedy ones, and there's this sort of fundamental understanding that, like, people were just fucking bored. Like, there was nothing to do. Like, the amount of distractions we have today.
Let's rumble.
Anyway, let's rumble. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there was something that bugged me, which was that after the fire at the church, Ponyboy is waiting in the hallway of the hospital, and he's having a conversation with some guy who's like, "No, you shouldn't smoke." And it's not because, like, this kid should have smoke inhalation. Like, there's no way he wants a cigarette. But instead, the conversation is more about, like, well, it's a bad habit, and you're a young man.
Yeah.
Like, no, he should be dying right now.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, that bugged me.
But that was to the kids. That was the PSA.
That was the PSA to the kids.
Yeah.
Don't smoke.
Yeah, this is the
Don't smoke. Yeah.
This is a meta.
But do pull kids out of burning church buildings.
Yeah.
Which, why were they in there?
I think it was just to show how good of a guy Johnny is.
But didn't the fire start because of, like, their cigarettes? I mean, it wasn't
Right.
directly shown, but I feel like it was implied.
Oh yeah, I guess he's
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, but I think that adds to the whole point of, like,
The guilt.
stay. What does it mean to stay golden?
Stay golden.
I think
You can't.
it's I mean, that's one way to look at it, but I think Johnny, well, it does literally kill Johnny.
It does.
Because he's trying to stay gold.
Yeah, and then
And it kills him.
and it gets-
They should have let the kids burn, is what I'm saying. Sometimes you make a mistake and you have to just walk away. This isn't about integrity or about going back and righting your wrongs and doing good in the world.
I feel
I think you just got to walk away.
Yeah, we didn't cover this in my English class, but I feel like at that point, it's
Don't
like,
stay
well,
gold.
Well, Johnny is like a Christ-like figure, and like
Yeah, they're
always-
trying to make it
they
like
always
that.
Put that on them.
But when you
don't like
it's
that.
pretty significant if it's
Yeah.
like, oh, they literally caused the fire.
That's what I'm saying.
I think there's something
then
about
it's a burden of guilt, right?
I think, but yeah, and so that's like a whole different
Changes
message.
I mean, it's been
feels
so
like-
long since I read the book.
But yeah, whatever. We can I guess he's Christ. We
I'm not advocating.
No,
I'm
but
saying-
just like but we always said every fucking book. I got so sick of this.
I know.
Of course I got a degree in English lit, so it was
Yeah.
nothing but this.
Yeah.
But especially in school, everyone's a Christ-like figure. Everybody's you got Simon and Lord of the Flies. You've got John. You got the Proctor.
Yeah.
Johnny Proctor.
Yeah.
And then you got Johnny Proctor. And then
I mean, there's no Christ-like figure in Scarlet Letter, but there's lots of, like, religious symbolism.
yeah, just
of
all
purity
the
and-
religion.
Yeah, it just yeah. Yeah, it's one of the boring. It's what made early American literature very boring to me, because it was, frankly, in my view, just a lot of pilgrims, or like
Yeah.
Puritans and
Sure.
preacher. Like, what is that? Like, one preacher who's famous for literally just some fire and brimstone, like, pulpit is like a vision of an angry God or some shit. Like,
Sinners in the Hands of an Angry
Yeah,
God.
that's
Yeah,
it.
we had to read that.
Yes.
I really liked American literature because
I don't like it till about the 20s.
I think there's something
sorry.
very that's I mean, there was a lot of
I mean, there's
it's
some stuff
unpleasant
before.
to read.
I
But
do
it's
like
so
I like Henry James, but I wasn't crazy about, like, Stephen Crane.
Sure.
Or
I
Ambrose
like that
Bierce,
people were trying
like-
so bad. Everybody in the same Manifest Destiny style in terms of literature was like, I'm going to be part of the top of the history of American literature. But it's a very self-aware.
Yes.
Like, I want to be remembered for this. And,
Yeah.
they're all always like that. Like,
Yeah.
everybody, not just American literature, but I think especially in that
Well,
early literature, it's like...
And I'm thinking about the American literature that
Very intense.
we're typically taught. I am aware that there is also, you have people like Phyllis Wheatley, who is
Sure.
like the first, I think she maybe wrote a slave narrative, but she was one of the first free Black women to publish a book. And, I
Yeah.
mean, there is a tradition of other writings. We're just not taught about
Yeah.
them. So,
Yeah.
I say all of that with, like, a grain of salt. There's definitely interesting shit before the 20s. But I think I didn't enjoy my readings in English until we got to, Gatsby, which is what most teachers are like, yeah, it's one of the only ones that people seem to actually like.
That's
like,
another great example of, school related. That's a huge one.
Oh, yeah. And another Coppola, he tried to adapt that too.
I rewatched the Baz Luhrmann one. Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the story.
Yeah.
I think it's a story problem because the style, well, I don't know though, actually.
I think it's such a difficult movie to adapt. Or I think not movie to adapt.
It's hard to adapt it and not inadvertently, like, I think, misconstrue like the point of the story.
Yeah. I mean, people have tried and failed. So I think
people they're sort of glamorizing and they're fetishizing the thing that needs to be unpacked.
Yeah.
Which like, I don't know, it's a tough if you're going to be critical of a certain...
Well, and that, like...
I don't know.
There's the toxicity of, the jealous husband who's been cucked, and that he's the one, right, who comes in and shoots him at the end, right?
No,
isn't that...
he's the the prostitute, that guy's
Oh, never mind.
husband.
I got it all mixed.
That's the no, they do that sort of... The American Beauty takes on, a similar thing where you think it's going to be this one major conflict that's going to blow up. Annette Bening, you're seeing her shooting lessons and all that stuff, and then it ends up being the homophobic neighbor. It's like, it's that
which was always there all along.
Which was there all along. It's like, oh, but you did.
And you know what? Like, obviously, and I mean, we're on a full tangent now, but I mean, American Beauty, it's like, Chris Cooper is so good in that. And Allison Janney has a tiny role as his wife, but she is so good in that.
I really liked American Beauty.
And Annette Bening is so good in that. And even Spacey, who, of course, like, it's hard to look at again, but it's like, that movie was so good.
Well, there's a lot of, I think, and tying it back to The Outsiders.
Yes, bring us back.
I think there's a lot of overlap in terms of a film that has nostalgic, but I think American Beauty's actually probably looked down on more than The Outsiders in some ways. I think The Outsiders, there's enough distance and there's enough... I think, I don't know. I think that the Kevin Spacey thing like really marred the nostalgic sort of...
Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah.
And it's also, there's a lot of like, it's a product of its time. So we can love it in certain ways and not in others.
I mentioned this was adapted from a book by S.E. Hinton. What happened was she had been given many offers, or people had approached her to adapt this before.
Sure.
Great story. But she really wasn't convinced anyone could do it. Separately, a librarian named Jo Ellen Misakian, sounds Armenian.
Yeah, it does.
Could be. She was a librarian at Lone Star Elementary School in Fresno, California, which is a K-8 school.
Oh yeah, there's some I have Armenian family in Fresno. You get that farmland,
making an impact.
You know.
Well, The Outsiders was one of the only books she could get students to read, and students were like, "This should be a movie." And she's like, "Yeah, let's get a petition going. Yeah, let's get a petition going." So she got...
This is an interesting way for...
Right?
Yeah, because it's a school book. It's a school book. This is a school book. People are interested.
Like, we'd love to see it. So she gathered something like 15 pages of student signatures, all in different handwritings and inks and all that. And then the librarian, I don't know, in this day and age, I guess a librarian could get Coppola's address in New York or something, his office.
It was a different time.
It was not, yeah, exactly. Well, she managed to get this petition and a copy of the book to him and his people. And there's some like bit of fate that he happened to be in New York and he normally wasn't. But anyway, he picked it up. His manager also picked it up. And, it was read on a flight, and they're like, oh, of course, this would make a great movie, obviously. Mm-hmm. And at this point, Coppola was at a really low point in his life. He just finished Apocalypse Now, but had pretty much bankrupted everything. And he talked about how I'd had this plan that Apocalypse Now was going to be like this great big hit, that I was going to be able to like go off and make personal little art movies for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Whoops. But he needed something to work on. And he said, this just genuinely felt like, I think I would love to work with a bunch of young actors And he used to be a drama counselor, I guess, when he was young. And he's like, it'll feel like summer camp.
I think,
you know?
I could see where he needed this as a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
It's still kind of violent and moody, but there's something very anti-apocalypse now.
Oh, and although
it's the triumph of the boyhood spirit.
Right.
I don't know. There's something earnest about it.
Yeah, so many of these actors will go on to be Hollywood insiders, but they weren't then. And this is a very pure process. I mean, he helped really develop a lot of the acting talents and skills, and I'll talk more about it. We have more details, but then of course it came back to like, okay, so we got to get the rights. S.E. Hinton wanted $5,000. Coppola, being so broke, could only give her $500, which sucks. But he also adapted Rumblefish, which is number one of hers, that also Matt Dillon was in. That happened either right before or right after The Outsiders. I think it was filmed in around the same area. He also gave her a part in the film. So she's the nurse in the hospital with Johnny. So anyway, so that was how they compensated her. I think also Tex was another one of hers that got optioned.
That's one way to achieve stardom.
And Coppola in general was like, listen, kids have many more feelings than people give them credit for. So this whole material really appealed to him. Again, he got S.E. Hinton involved. She ended up becoming like a den mother to most of the men or the young men on this.
Interesting.
Yeah, she was kind of, because she also was there to help adapt it.
Oh,
like,
how wholesome.
Yeah, as much as she said, like, listen, it says it was adapted by him, but she's like, I was there every day on set. We were constantly talking through, the story, the decisions. Again, casting we have to talk about the casting because there's so many people who were just they were unknown. No one knew Rob Lowe. He was a find. And a ton of people auditioned for this that never even got in. But they had open casting calls in multiple cities. And Coppola said, I like to make my casting process fit the film.
That used to be a thing.
Yeah.
Open casting like that.
You still can.
It still comes up. It's just but
not enough.
It's also like it's open casting, but like you got to know where to look. And there's a certain... I don't know. There's like a coupon savers mentality about like old school actor life, trying to find, okay, this is the location and I got to get the papers. I got to get my backstage subscription.
Yeah. Or like, having to pick up a trade paper to find auditions. And it's a totally different time. Yeah. He held the auditions in groups, which I know normally sounds like hell. And maybe it was, but he had benches arranged in a circle because he sort of was like, these are all young people and they're all going to learn and watch each other and see what each other is doing. And it's going to like affect dynamics. And he wanted to see people trying on different parts. And he wanted to see people watch other people try on parts that they had, and he really wanted to find good fits.
That's interesting.
It really is. I mean,
it's also like a very competitive, that's a very, I don't know.
He's kind of smart.
He's kind of manipulative.
A little bit.
Let's just fuck with him a little.
Yeah, some people who auditioned, but of course weren't in it. Dennis Quaid, Scott Baio, Mickey Rourke, Kate Capshaw, who would be a later marry Steven Spielberg. Uncredited cameos from Nick Cage, Melanie Griffith, and Flea.
I know.
Yeah. Rehearsals lasted 2 weeks. Coppola's really big about rehearsals. He insists. He loves them. And it's not necessarily, he's like, we might read the first day, we might read the thing, but really it's then us playing together and figuring out each other. And sort of being in character.
He's so into it.
I know,
Coppola, he's just so
purity.
Oh, let's do this big. Let's talk our feelings.
Well, and so one thing they did, this is fascinating. They shot the entire film first on videotape, like I think in a gymnasium, maybe in an abandoned school or something, and it gave them kind of reference points for the actors to kind of go back, or to review something. And I guess it really enhanced. It was kind of like a full dress rehearsal or something.
This is so opposite Apocalypse Now, like the collaborative, like being really,
Yeah. And so, I mean,
I need people. I need progeny. I need to. I don't know. He's legacy building.
He is.
He's to try it this way. That's why there's so many big names in this now.
Well, that's just it. And Zoetrope, American Zoetrope, his company, he was really big on working with. I don't want to say unknown. I hate that term, but working with emerging talent. I mean, nobody wanted Al Pacino in The Godfather.
I don't like unknown either. I'm emerging. I think we're all emerging.
We're all emerging.
We're all emerging until we're emerged.
Yeah, and then
we've emerged.
That's it.
And then we're an overnight success.
Yeah, she came out of nowhere.
I love overnight success. Yeah,
Just slowly.
But we're all emerging.
We're all emerging. We're all blooming. Tom
Blooming onions.
Coppola described Tom Cruise, a 15-year-old Tom Cruise, as a quote intense kid.
I bet.
I think that's it. And also, quote, he was described by Rob Lowe as relentlessly competitive. And I don't know if Rob Lowe is friendly.
He's not
with
even
Tom
like
Cruise.
that important.
No, exactly.
Such a secondary type character.
Yes. Okay. So that's the funny thing, right? There's all these names.
Established dominance.
We've got Pony Boy, Soda Pop, 2-Bit, Dallas. Tom Cruise's character is Steve Randall.
Steve Randall.
That's his nickname. It's his cool greaser name, Steve
That's
Randall.
funny.
Anyway, I just had to point that out.
Yeah,
But,
they got funny names in this.
Yeah, part of the rehearsal process was they had a little bit of fight training because of the Rumble scene. And again, his need to be very competitive, he learned how to do a backflip, and he was the only one who could learn.
Yeah.
And somehow got it into the movie, but they're like, it's totally unimportant and not necessary.
Yeah.
And I guess...
No, this guy was swinging for the fences.
Yes, and then there's this other thing he did.
He's like, I'm going to make this my launching pad.
He did this thing on set where there was a scene where he decided he's like, I'm going to take a bite of chocolate cake. Like, he's going to be eating cake in this scene. And then they proceeded to do so many takes
of him
this
eating
scene.
cake,
and he got sick. Like and it's
That's
like
really funny.
and it's a detail that if you go back and watch, just watch Tom Cruise's face. He looks like he's about to be sick. I mean, he looks miserable, and it's kind of a delight because it's like he was trying so hard. He made a choice he didn't have to make, and then he had to commit to it.
Yeah, he's doubling down.
Yeah,
like this is.
It just seems very like evocative of him.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just this is just early evidence of
I'm
gonna jump on the couch on Oprah. You know, I'm doing all these stunts in the sky.
I feel like Rob Lowe is just like at home with his arms crossed, watching this crazy shit unfold, and it's just like never changes.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he
was a wild child too.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, God, that's putting it mildly.
But yeah, he's like, wow, like he's like, I keep my lawn clean now. Like
right. But I mean,
mind my P's and Q's. I've done my rebrand.
Right. I mean, it's right. I mean, we all remember. Well, some of us don't. But yeah, Rob Lowe technically should be guilty of child pornography. I mean, like,
yeah.
And that's not
some people bring it up.
Yeah,
I mean, we're in that culture now. There's always a TikTok.
And I'm not like
for every celebrity.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be like I'm not here to be like puritanical, whatever.
No, but yeah,
it was joked about, it was just, again, evidence of
it was a different time. It was a different time.
Great.
Everything now. Everything.
I hate that, but it's true. And yes, Tom Cruise was actually threw a hissy fit, or just a fit. Let's just say he threw a fit when he realized he had to share a room with Rob Lowe, during the production of this, and. So just, again, really...
Yes, it got history.
Really intense. Coppola, again, was sort of training these young actors, and some method acting moments I feel like that are worth just mentioning. He had Ralph Macchio, who was playing Johnny, the poor kid with parents who were very abusive. He had him live off $5 a day. And also had him spend at least one night sleeping in the park using newspapers as...
Wait, Coppola told him to do that?
Yeah, and he did it. Willingly, because for Ralph Macchio, who was a kid from like Long Island,
go sleep in the park.
He was actually up for it because he was like and he apparently was among all of them the most committed. And serious.
It's that culty. This is the way some people are still like this with how they run their sets or whatever.
Yeah.
We just don't really.
Well, we have more examples.
It's funny. It's very the menu. We love you, chef.
Yeah, exactly.
We love you, Coppola.
Tom Cruise and Rob Lowe went to sort of stay the night and have dinner with a quote unquote real greaser couple. But they were like, it was just a pleasant evening. Like, oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone who was who was a soch.
Yeah.
All those actors got better food, better accommodation, just generally better treatment.
Yeah.
And the greasers had to stay in like a motel. They had crappier food. The crew was ruder to them. Like he was trying to simulate, this.
He's really getting them. He was like imposing method.
Yeah.
Tactics.
And one method he was trying to get and was completely rejected, which is funny. He suggested Matt Dillon spend a night in jail, and Matt Dillon was like, why don't you spend a night in jail?
Yeah, I think at that point, that's funny. You imagine this as a montage of all this fucked up shit that he's doing for the purity of the craft, and then it lands on him.
Yeah.
Come on.
And one thing,
I don't know.
And one thing that got out of control very literally was that church fire. Coppola was like, more flames, more. And then, of
More
course,
flames.
And then it like literally got out of control and started to burn. And then the story goes, I guess it's true, a crazy rainstorm just like emptied a
just
ton
happened.
and like put out the fire. They did have firemen on hand ready to go, but it wasn't necessary, it turned out. But so
that could give you that if you are, in case you already had a God complex, I'm sure that didn't contribute negatively.
Oh, not
to
at all. No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, see, look, it's all fine. God wanted me to make this.
He wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
He wanted me to burn down his church.
Manifest outsiders.
I mean, but that church scene, I mean, when you see it burning, I mean, if it looks real, it's because, like, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Like, that building was out of control.
Those ain't no CGI flames.
No, they were not.
Those children were
real,
fearful of their lives.
Yeah, well, I mean, those were obviously staged, but the black
I don't know. I wouldn't doubt that Coppola was
real.
Like, what happens, okay?
Save them, Johnny.
You gotta save them, Johnny.
You gotta save them.
You gotta save them, Johnny.
You're the Christ figure.
You're the Christ. Be Christ.
Be Christ-like. As I mentioned, the whole thing was filmed around Tulsa, Oklahoma. They started filming in March and finished in around May. Apparently, there were a lot of on-set pranks. Diane Lane, though, described them in terms of like, she's like, yeah, it's kind of like a psychological violation. I'm like, that doesn't sound good.
I just was thinking too, like her being in that movie is probably it probably was just like that movie scene with Cherry. She's just sitting there and they're all fucking with her, and Coppola's probably encouraging this because this is
fits
what
the
it
story.
is.
Yeah.
So
some of the things they did to her, they put Vaseline on her door handles.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
They put honey on her toilet seat.
Oh no.
They would also write threats in lipstick on her mirror.
It's really fucked up.
Really fucked up. Also, she said sometimes you come home and find your bed was short sheeted. And I don't know what that means. Like, did they cut off the bottom of the sheet, or like was there
just like one less sheet?
I don't know.
Because most people don't use two sheets anymore.
Apart from the threats written in lipstick, it's kind of innocent.
I just think, she's being kind of a baby. I think she should.
No, that was probably awful.
Sucked it up for the craft.
It was probably awful. I think someone, it might have been Tom Cruise, I'm not sure who. No, I think it was C. Thomas Howell. He came home from something exhausted and found all of his furniture and every item of everything in his room turned upside down, which is very like classic. I mean, these pranks, I'm just saying, like, I feel like pranks got way meaner and darker as time went on.
Yeah.
Like, this all feels fairly like I could recover from this.
Oh,
like,
sure. No,
I'm not trying to underscore.
No.
I
agree.
I'm trying to undercut.
I know, but I'm just I'm making fun of how.
She literally used the word violation, though. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to deal with that shit.
Yeah, well, and as I mentioned, Essie Hinton, who didn't stay anywhere near them, but she kind of became this den mother, and apparently, like, she and Rob Lowe got really, really friendly, and they were in touch for years after the film, and it's just, it's kind of sweet.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So Warner Brothers demanded that the original cut be shortened because they really felt like teens aren't going to sit through something that's over 2 hours. But after it was released, Coppola got letters constantly from fans about like, oh, this scene should have been in it, and why wasn't this in there? Because people love this book. They're really intensely in love with this book. So in 2005, a re-edit was released that is a bit longer. It's the original cut, and it's restored. It's supposed to be very beautiful. However, that's not the version that's on HBO right now, which is how we watch this.
Yeah.
So I don't know how different, if it's...
I guess I would still have to have maybe read the book to appreciate it
probably
more.
Helps.
Like, because I don't know. Also,
I feel like the book it almost feels implied that you should have read the book because there's what you were saying about not knowing the names. It's like, yeah, why would you know the names?
Yeah.
They say them like once offhand.
Yeah.
But when you're in the book and you're constantly seeing them, Two-Bit said this, and Dallas said that.
Yeah, it's kind of
Soda Pop said this.
I just was getting I was getting confused.
Also, the very clumsy exposition of their parents dying in the car. That's like,
oh, that was kind of funny.
That was funny.
That was really funny. The dissolves.
Yeah.
That they did that a few times in the movie where they would do a weird dissolve like that.
Yeah.
Just to like really like
to fill
this
in.
was the point.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
Yeah, their parents are dead. This is how it happened. Just so you know, which probably would have come off a lot better, right, in the book.
But it's also just it's interesting because at that point it's Coppola. I think is he being deliberately schmaltzy?
It felt schmaltzy.
But is it intentional? Because at this point, it's not like he's not capable of nuance, I guess, or to have done a little more.
No, I think.
But maybe he's embracing the perspective, that melodramatic.
I think that's
obviousness that we prefer when we're younger.
Yes,
maybe. I don't know.
I think that's it. I think he completely understood who his actors were, the audience that loved this.
Yeah.
This, and that's why
he didn't want to make it too sophisticated, I guess.
Well, at the end, that's why there's that dedication to the librarian and the students saying, like, this is for you. You're the only audience I really care about because you're the ones who asked me to make it.
Yeah.
So it is pure. And whether you like it or not, it's a really distinct point of view. And it's one some people really hold really close to their heart for nostalgic reasons, but also because it's a coming of age. Like that is always going to stir people up.
Absolutely. No, it's interesting how, when I was looking at, I like looking more at user reviews because I feel like that's the more.
That's a good transition. Sorry.
I like that. Yeah. That's nice. It's getting dark.
Getting too dark.
I didn't realize how dark it was getting.
But yeah,
tell
me about the reviews.
Yeah, this is, when I'm looking at different user reviews, especially on Letterboxd, it's interesting. Well, we already know people love treating that like a Twitter meme, jokey joke. I do it too.
I've said it.
It's not really as much about. I guess it depends on what you value or care, like what's your thing, how are you branding yourself on Letterboxd. Why initially I was kind of reluctant to doing it, but now I like it now.
We've discussed, like, if I post something in earnest, I'm like, ooh, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, I don't know, there is like, there's space for that, but it's just like that's not usually the norm. And so that being said, it's like the way that people write or style their reviews. Most of them on a lot of these movies are always going to be these jokey things. Mm-hmm. What I noticed in particular, though, with The Outsiders is that it was pretty overwhelmingly, it just seemed like a lot of much younger users. Mm-hmm. Not all of them, certainly, but a lot. Almost every single one, like that lowercase, and which, it's a choice, right? I think I always find the whole lowercase aesthetic of Twitter user, this and that. Like, I think it's
a choice.
I don't do it because I feel like it comes off too intentional.
Yeah.
Like it feels very try hard a little bit. Yeah. Like it's a manufactured.
It's true.
Dumbing down or casualness. Yeah. Like you don't care, whatever.
E.E. Cummings already did it.
It's that. It's very evoking, like I'm cool, but it's so anyway.
Can't
there's
be
a lot
to
of
hit the shift key
after having just taken a dump on all these people's writing style. That's just why I don't do it. It feels like, I didn't establish my brand this way, and I can't turn back now.
Yeah,
but there's an aesthetic, right? And there's a sort of mentality or jokey quip style to a lot of these reviews, which just comes off like it tended to resonate with a younger generation. Mm-hmm. And I think even more so with certainly not that Gen X and older didn't watch this movie, but I know it's a lot of like millennials and Gen Z.
Yeah.
We all have a lot of strong opinions about that because it's become normalized in school or just at some point in your comeuppance.
It's so interesting
coming of age
that this book came out in 1967 and it became one of these books that teenagers read and maybe some classrooms covered.
Yeah.
And then it took until the 80s. So it had a full 20 years of incubating in just like word of mouth, like it's a Catcher in the Rye, or it's this.
It has a long history already, just as a book, but then it comes film.
So you have people who anticipated, I think, that, and were very excited. But then you have young people who are experiencing it for the first time, either through the book or through the movie, or some combination of both. And I think it's a movie and it's a story for the kids. It is a story for the kids.
Yeah.
There's nary an adult anywhere to be seen. Although technically Patrick Swayze was 31.
Yeah, which is very.
He's playing like a
very
19-year-old.
jarring.
Little jarring.
No, but it's funny. It's
was
almost
cute.
it almost
He was
seems like
cute.
ship photoshopped when looking at the photo of
mean,
them all together. It just looks
It's
like
a-
it's just him from Dirty Dancing.
It's a Levi's ad.
Yeah.
Any of the photos of them together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that being said, with the reviews, again, you know, a lot of them are kind of the jokey thing. Like the very first one, it's 3 stars, so they enjoyed it, but they said, like if The Outsiders is gay. It has like over 2,000 likes. Everything is very like, yeah, like there was a scene in this where I thought Ponyboy was about to kiss Johnny, and I've never felt so queer baited in my life.
Yeah, they were real tight. I did think that was like, but you know,
Yeah, okay, so that was
I
Char,
don't
3.5
wanna-
star,
yeah.
and then Maya with 3, the earlier one.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to say the user. I'm not trying to just
No,
be
no,
like,
no.
wow, this person said something funnier than I could think of. No, in some kids, it's a lot of just, yeah, Casey, 3.5 stars and a heart. Cherry was a red herring. They all gay.
Yeah.
There's so many of them were like, well, you know,
Shit's gay.
guys being dudes.
yeah,
Gay.
just being emotional.
Yeah.
It's definitely, yeah, it's. You can read it that way.
Yeah.
There's tons of queer subtext, of course. It's a lot of men. It's a homosocial film in
Yeah.
the sense that like there's only one woman, and she's like a little angel that visits every
Yeah.
couple of plot points.
Yeah.
She's not really central to them. I mean, Bob was kind of, wasn't that her boyfriend or something that
Yeah.
gets stabbed?
Or, yeah.
Or is it just her friend? I can't remember. But he, like, if it's her boyfriend, he was trying to be like all fresh with her at the beginning and like
All the guys just being
All-
shitty
all
to
rapey and-
Cherry
yeah.
on screen, off screen.
yeah, poor Diane.
Yeah, waste of honey too. That's not where that goes.
No, it's not.
Belongs in my tea.
Yeah, yeah, or
Yeah.
like on one of those sticks that you stir.
Oh, I thought I was gonna be like hot dog on a stick, honey dog on the
You
stick.
trying to make me hungry.
Yeah. The Outsiders also has let's see, it's got 7 out of 10 IMDb. Okay, on Rotten Tomatoes, 69%, but then 82% audience. So there's a bit of a disparage, and I think a lot of that is from what we were just talking about, where there's just this sort of incredible nostalgic value, and it speaks to a very specific time in a young person's life. And I think there's also the themes about like friendship and camaraderie, and it also has that the way they hang out, and there's the non-technology element thing.
Yeah.
I think that was part of what I was sort of not able to articulate about why I think specifically millennial and younger, a lot of people seem to
love it.
really
Yeah.
enjoy it, and not just for like they're so gay.
Yeah.
But just that I think it's this it's a time, it's a pre smartphone. I don't know, there's something about that.
I think
It's escapist in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels simpler, and yet the issues they're facing are still universally relevant.
Yeah.
And yeah. I mean, the appeal, it's hard to kind of put my finger on, because I think it's that like it's this rich emotional life,
Yeah.
you know, that people, and you can read it as queer, but I mean the way that Ponyboy cares about Johnny, and the way that they
Yeah.
can talk with each other. He's like, well, I can't talk like this with other people. And like, yeah, I get how that can feel very queer coded.
Yeah.
And by all means, go ahead and read it that way. But I think there's just something pure about the kind of like friendship that like 2 young men or 2 boys can have. I mean, it can be 2 girls too, but you know,
I mean, maybe they
well-
did have it for each other, but maybe also that's not the point.
it's, yeah, if it's a truth, it's just like, okay, it's true. And, but I guess what I'm saying there's like there's a movie out now called Close that I've been wanting to see. And
oh, right. Yeah.
and it's about this
another-
issue. It's kind of about like 2 boys who are very close with each other and physically very affectionate with each other, but as they grow up, it's essentially, you know, the world telling them like you can't be this way, or
Right.
you'll be ridiculed. You know,
But are they gay?
No, I don't. Or I don't. Well, you know, I didn't
Or maybe
see
one
it.
of them is.
I
Maybe it's
didn't-
like a children's hour.
It could be a children's.
It's a children's hour.
You know, I haven't seen it, so maybe I'm getting this way off. But I think there's something about
The poster, I think, is kind of fun. Like
Yeah.
they're hugging, but it's the face of the one kid. I think he looks
Yeah.
like he looks at you. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's something about it that has a vibe. Like,
Yeah,
I think
I've heard.
is he?
Yeah, I've heard people talking about it in this way, that it's more disappointing, the kind of expectations that masculinity puts on.
Sure.
Like, when is that moment when you transition from being a boy
Yeah.
to being a man?
Yeah,
And
and then
when-
the masculine. That's so the outsiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, what makes you a man?
And they have this idea, and it turns out to not be, because once they, you know, the Curtis family, especially Soda Pop, and which is Rob Lowe and Patrick Swayze, you know, the moment of like, we thought we lost you, you know, I mean, it's like,
yeah.
oh, that's beautiful, like, that's so sweet, like,
There's earnestness, but then there
Yeah.
are also, I gotta say, Matt Dillon really scares me.
and
He's been a scary dude in a few movies.
Oh, in a few, but
and
he
I watched
also-
The House That Jack Built recently. I wish I had never watched it. Every time Lars von Trier, I'm like, no, this sounds interesting.
I won't do
I
it.
wish I didn't. I wish I hadn't
can't.
watched that.
I think
That was devastating.
I think
that
what's-
put me in an awful place.
what stands out to me most about Matt Dillon in this movie is that everybody has an Okie accent except him, who inexplicably
Yeah.
has like a Jersey Italian thing.
Exactly right. We do it for Johnny.
Doing it for Johnny.
It's just such a, but it's so put on, but it's so committed to. But when he's fucking around with Cherry at the beginning in the movie theater, that like really made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't like that.
And I
Like, he's like, yeah, he
that's
gets
cool. He's looking out for the boys, but then I don't know that, like,
Yeah.
how close he was getting, and just
Yeah.
I don't know. I shouldn't have watched The House That Jack Built, because
Yeah.
that really freaked me out.
I mean, I think there's also, of course,
Like, he could kill me.
Yeah.
he could kill me.
I mean, there's also a lot of class elements to this. Like, we
Yeah.
haven't really talked about that, but it's not just their two rival gangs. It's like, no, these are people who don't have, and then here, like, the have-nots and the haves in this town.
Yeah.
And I think,
Yeah, we don't really talk. Like, Grease doesn't really go into the class stuff
No.
about this.
I mean,
about the greasers versus
watching Emilio Estevez sit down with a tray that has a giant chocolate cake and a beer on
Yeah.
it as he sits down to watch TV. I mean, it's like that image is like unsupervised.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
Like, kind of shit. And then the threat for the Curtis family, especially, which again is Soda Pop and whatever. I can't remember the oldest guy's name, but Ponyboy's family.
Daryl.
Yeah, Daryl. Thank you.
Yeah.
They don't have.
I just had a refresher,
Right.
so.
Thank you. I mean, they don't have parents. So if anything goes wrong with them,
It's just the
they're
brothers.
they're gonna get sent to a boys' home.
Yeah.
So the threat of the state coming in
Yeah.
is not something any of those socias have to deal with. You know, it's so this just, and we don't go home. We don't go with the socias anywhere. We
Yeah.
live in the world of the greasers. Like, so this is definitely their movie. You know?
Yeah, the stakes are just inherently higher because they have there's a lack
There's
of
more at
resources.
stake.
Yeah.
There's just way more at
Yeah,
stake. Like,
yeah.
they don't. Yeah. And
If one of them had died instead at the fountain,
No one
you
would give
know,
a shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing would happen. But because
it does also, though,
Soch blood be spilt.
yeah, and it does feel also, although there's many metaphors, you could be like, the Socias are Northern Ireland, you know, I mean, like, whatever paper
Yeah.
you want to write, but
Gangs of New York is basically the outsiders.
yeah, basically, that's what that's about. But it does feel somewhat, though, like a way to talk about race issues without there being a single black person in the mix. Like, and I'm not trying to just be like, oh,
Well,
it's a
there's
white
a lot of overlap with socioeconomic. Like there's
Yeah.
class and race.
you know what I'm saying?
There's-
Like,
They're deep. They're
the way that-
highly connected.
the way that Johnny says, like, there's got to be some other kind of world where it's not just greasers and socias, you know. It
Yeah.
just, that to me, it's like, ooh, I feel like we're treading into like any kind of, you know, again, haves and have nots, or like, you know,
It's like with Pleasantville, where it's just like, okay, but yeah, like, but there were people of color, right?
right.
Right? Like, what
Sure.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird doing. It's weird watching that analogy done with an entirely white cast.
Yeah. That's all I'm,
No, that's. I mean, yeah.
you know.
That's why I'm like with it's like, oh, I love Pleasantville, but it's like, oh, that is a pretty.
Yeah. It's
It's a saccharine sort of
Yeah,
surface
and I'm-
neoliberal take.
right. And I'm also not suggesting that, like, you have to be white to appreciate The Outsiders, because that's not true. Like, no, these are universal
No, but it
themes.
is. It's
like,
one of those. It's just one of those things.
But
that,
look how
like,
it's represented. This is how it's being represented.
because there is like an argument being made about inclusivity and
And now, I mean, Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's like Oklahoma has black folk.
yeah,
But
yeah,
Tulsa
it's
was
interesting.
also the site
No,
of
but it
the
was
riot,
very,
you know,
it's-
like
exactly.
like
It's still so segregated. Like it's just not even touched on in
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would serve or for the film, or if it
It's-
was the film would
well,
suffer, or the
that's just
story
it.
would, or book rather
Yeah,
would
yeah.
suffer to have a conversation about that. Or it's also like, well, you know, sometimes is it better to just stick with what experiences are known to you rather than trying to
No, and I'm not saying like they should have shoehorned that in or that author was wrong. No, they were telling the story they knew
because
to
sometimes
tell.
that ultimately becomes then often like pandering or like so very again also
Absolutely.
surface level.
Yeah.
There's a lack of understanding. Even if the intentions are good, it
No,
sort of
she
feels,
wrote about what she knew.
Yeah.
And by doing that, she was created an incredible coming of age story that
Yeah.
many people relate to. So I think everything is fine the way it is, but it does. I just wonder about those discussions that get had in the classroom, or when you're forced to write the paper. And, you know, you don't always have to come at everything from a critical race theory point of view, but, you know, there's a lot of,
but some stories really benefit from
Yes.
that
Yeah.
perspective.
bingo.
You know, I really loved the Watchmen series, and I wasn't expecting to. And that is like such a strong example of taking a story and re-examining it.
Yeah.
And that the way that context just seamlessly fits. It really works.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but I
I
hear good
was,
things. I hear the good
I was very pleasantly surprised. Not that I was some diehard fan of, like, I didn't read the whole graphic novel because I was like, oh shit, this is like really dense.
Yeah. Is that Alan Moore?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, it's really good, but I was just, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had brain rot. But I did really like actually the Znack cider.
This story good.
God, I'm a fucking mess.
I'm a comic.
Zack Snyder.
Oh, okay.
Zack Snyder.
The pretzel man.
And then she had a heart attack.
Oh.
So I'm fine.
Okay, some other movies that came out. When The Outsiders came out, it opened number 2 at the box office. Number 1 was Spring Break. Then The High Road to China. Tootsie was number 4, which I
Tootsie.
finally saw.
Oh, so you just watched it.
I finally just saw it. I loved it.
Should we do it?
Well, you've seen it before, though.
I have.
Yeah,
that would be me like
lying. No.
me being a liar.
No, it's okay. It was one I needed to see, and I finally saw it. And
It's
it was
good.
It's fucking great.
Good.
Fucking great.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
The Black Stallion was in the theaters. Also, Sword in the Stone was in the theaters. Bad Boys and Gandhi. So
Sword in the Stone.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how late that came out.
yeah,
Or this is early
83.
80. Okay, so
83.
Yeah, I don't know why I always thought that one was like from the 60s or 70s.
It's possible it was a re-release.
Maybe. Yeah,
Because
because they were
that.
doing that still instead of VHS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was like,
we need a time machine to 1983. Someone can tell us. Yeah.
but it's yeah, right.
Right. Just hop on it.
Come on in.
Yeah, like Peabody and Sherman.
Yeah.
Quiet you.
Oh, okay. I'm Sherman.
Yeah.
Wait, because you're the dog.
I'm Mr. Peabody.
Yeah,
for
Mr.
sure. I'm the dog.
Is that how he spoke to his human?
I think so.
Quiet you.
Well, I don't think that. I think that was like the parody from The Simpsons. But I think when they was like, I'm the first non-Brazilian to travel through time.
That's not how you speak to your human.
Yeah, he goes like, and he's like, correction, Hova, you're the second.
That's
right, Mr. Peabody. Quiet you.
That would be really funny if it was like
We do Peabody.
He's Mr. Peabody's a little sassy, and then the boy's like, "Hey, I'm your master.
I own you.
I own you. You know your place." That's dark.
I like it though.
It's dark.
I like it.
But it's okay because he's just a dog.
How long till that's in the public domain? Like just the way, Winnie the Pooh is now getting like BDSM
Oh, yeah. I heard
treatment.
it was really bad. Like
course it is.
but not even fun bad, which makes it
No.
Because I was like, oh, this could be like so bad.
You
It's
know what?
brilliant.
I'm kind of glad
Like fun bad.
I'm glad it's bad because somebody needed to jump in the pool first,
Yeah.
and now anything anyone does will be like markedly better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see how other people adapt those things.
Maybe we should do it.
You want to make a Winnie the Pooh movie with me?
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
let's do it.
We should do like a
I don't know. Pooed in the hood.
Pood in the Hood. I was thinking it should be like the Outsiders, but it's 100 Acre Wood.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So Piglet is like,
And Tigger is like, we do it for Piglet.
we do it for Piglet. We do it for Piglet. Okay. That's genius.
Thank you.
Piglet would be Johnny. You're right. And Tigger would be would be
I don't know,
Dallas.
one of those animals would be dumb
Pooh
enough to
is Golden Boy.
set a
or not Golden Boy, Pony Boy.
Pony Boy. Pooh's Pony Boy.
Pony Boy. I think it's Pooh. Yeah, Pooh's Pony Boy.
Or maybe Pooh is Johnny because he has to go save the kids, right? He has a closer relationship with Rue, and Rue's in the schoolhouse. So then he saves Rue. Then he gets stuck because he's full of honey.
Yeah, he's a fat.
So he's fat.
So he gets roasted and dies in the hospital.
No, but he can't get back out because it's Rue sized to the schoolhouse, right? It's not Pooh sized, and he gets stuck, and that's how he ends up in the hospital, and then Tigger's the trigger happy one. That's why he's got, or he could also be Tom Cruise's character, and it could be Rabbit. Could be because he's a little bit of a hothead. He's a little high strung.
Yeah,
could be a bit of a hothead.
Who's the owl? I just took all the energy out of this bit. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just trying to think because like Eeyore is also somebody.
I feel like 2-Bit feels like an Eeyore.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I don't know. Johnny is definitely
having chocolate cake and beer.
I feel like Johnny has to be Piglet. I'm sorry, because he's so small.
Johnny, yeah. Okay, but then, he's so small, then something hits him.
Yeah.
So
like Pooh and him, like you think it's going to be Pooh, but then it's actually...
Yeah. Piglet. I killed him. I killed the guy.
Smells like ham.
Oh my God. You just wanted to make that joke. You just really wanted Piglet to be in a burning building and be like, it smells like ham.
I wish I could think that far ahead.
That was great.
Thank you.
No, I won't give you credit.
All right. Well, in our director's chair this week.
Oh man, yeah, we gotta do director's chair.
No, it's good. We'll fly through it.
No, we're good. This is
doing
on
great.
me. We're having too much fun.
It's great. That's what we want.
Palling around.
Francis Ford Coppola, maybe you've heard of him. He was born April 7th, 1939 in Detroit, Michigan, to Carmine and Natalia Coppola. Carmine was a musician, composer, and an assistant orchestra director for the Ford Sunday Evening Hour, because again, they were in Detroit. Francis Ford Coppola got his middle name Ford because he was born at the Henry Ford Hospital.
Yeah.
So again, there's the thing. His mother, Italia, was an actress. Like she actually was in some films. So he did come from a show business family. I think that's worth mentioning. At 7, the family moved to Woodside, Queens, when Carmine gets the principal flautist role in the NBC Symphony Orchestra, which I think is cool.
That is cool.
At 9, Francis Ford Coppola gets polio, and he's forced to stay in bed for about a year.
That's nuts.
Yeah, just think you thought, pandemic, lockdown.
No, I've been going
like,
crazy, waiting for my own treatment. I'm just like, I can't imagine a full year.
Well, and this is a common, we're kind of discovering this, right, about directors we've learned about that, Scorsese had asthma. Like, remember, he had to sleep in a tent at night as a child and couldn't go play. A lot of people, Wong Kar-wai, right, didn't speak the language and was very separate from people. When people get isolated, they seem to really reach for things like their imagination and movies and TV and books. So Coppola developed a really
They got so bored. They had to get creative.
They had to develop a fantasy life, So I just find that interesting. This seems to be like a common, not necessary, but it seems like if you've experienced being outside, like an outsider, I don't know. You might. I feel like you might have a little more to say.
Sure.
I don't know.
I think this also brooding time.
Oh yeah.
Teens, preteens, and
perfect time to
feeling
brood.
Isolated and angsty, and then this also I could see how this still appeals to those who feel marginalized.
Becoming so weird and isolated.
Yeah.
Something so unwholesome. Anyway.
Wait, what's that from?
I was just thinking about The Simpsons. When Bart's like writing his own, he's like, his leg is broken and he's inside his bedroom. Just like, It's like a Rear Window situation.
Yeah.
But he's also like playing with his soldiers, and he's like, "No, you can't take over."
Yeah.
What? No.
Yeah.
He's just becoming a strange little boy who's like
It's
forced to stay inside.
Yeah, you're left to your own devices.
You are. At 10, Francis Ford Coppola began making movies with a Super 8mm camera and a tape recorder. He was really into Dracula and The Thief of Baghdad and Disney cartoons. Those fascinated him. At 15, he read A Streetcar Named Desire and gained a really big interest in theater. He's like, this is what I want to do. I want to write plays. And he, despite this though, he's not a great student. I mean, he's into things, but he's not. He's more. He gets this nickname Science, I guess, because he's really into like tech gadgets and engineering. And I think
Stay gold, science.
I know. And his father, I think, thought if you don't become a musician, you should be an engineer. That was kind of the vibe. But I say all this because Coppola attended approximately 23 different schools in his student career.
Wow.
Like, I don't know if he was getting kicked out or flunking out or if there were, I don't know what was going on. But he finished at Great Neck North High School, and he planned for a music career. He was studying the tuba. He could play tuba. And then he enters Hofstra College, which is a private school on Long Island. He majors in theater arts. He had a scholarship for playwriting. Like I said, he was into the thing. It's here that he meets James Caan, Lainie Kazan, and Joe Frank. He also sees the film October, 10 Days That Shook the World, the Sergei Eisenstein film. And it's at that point that he decides, oh, I'm not doing theater. I'm going to go into film. And Eisenstein, it was the editing. And really, those films are incredible for the way you can tell a story with images. Really cool. So he switches into film. And at this school, he starts a cinema workshop. He contributes a lot to the campus literary magazine. He also was invited to join this comedy group called the Greenwigs, which I think is a funny name. And then also this musical group called the Kaleidoscopians. And he's like, okay, this should all be one thing. And he merged it into something called the Spectrum Players. And every week they would put on a different production. And he was really sort of at the helm of this. Which sort of reminds me a little bit of Orson Welles, right? Like gathering a company and directing and being like the person who's doing all the big decision making, and it's cool. It's at this point too that he was studying with Dorothy Arzner, who is one of the few female directors that you can point to sort of in the early Hollywood days. And it was her encouragement that actually he felt was quite pivotal to him in deciding to really pursue this seriously. So in 1960, he goes to UCLA Film School. He makes a lot of shorts, but he's getting really bored in school. He wants to just make movies. And a couple of his classmates they've gotten a lot of extra work doing what are called skin flicks or nudie cuties. Now, these aren't porn. They're movies that have nudity, but no like sort of sexual acts.
Yeah.
So, and he made a couple of these and, made some money. He also wrote something and cast Marley Renfro, who was like a Playboy bunny at the time or something, use your resources.
Yeah.
You're in LA. And it was called The Peeper. And it was supposed to be like kind of a comedy. And he tried to sell this short, but adult films were like, it's not racy enough. Like it's, this is too much of a movie, not enough of a smut film. It's such an interesting time. Like I think about Betty Page and how people thought what she did was so outrageous. But then after a few years went by, it really was tame.
Yeah.
So I think it's just such a weird period of history where the fact that skin flicks were a thing, there was this brief, I don't know, something funny about that to me. Anyway, I promise we're almost there.
No, you're fine.
He also re-edited another German movie that was called Sin Began with Eve. And he recut it and again was able to make another product out of something and work as an editor. It's at this point, though, he gets hired as an assistant to Roger Corman, the great Roger Corman. He worked at first as a dialogue director, sound man, associate producer. Corman was impressed with him, kept giving him more work. There was a film they were making called The Young Racers. There was about $20K left over, and Corman turns to Coppola and says, hey, why don't you make something? Go home and write something. So that night, Coppola tries to write a story, brings it in, good enough, let's do it. They take the $20K. Somebody else offers another $20K because they want, I don't know, the English rights or something. And he makes this film called Dementia 13. It was filmed in 9 days. They recouped all their expenses. And it's kind of this cult film. It's I've never seen it, but I think it's if anyone ever gives you a chance out there to see Dementia 13, take them up on it. It's also on that film that he meets Eleanor Jessie Neal, the set decorator, and he would later marry her. So cool. He meets his wife. Okay. In 1965, he wins the Samuel Goldwyn Award for Best Screenplay Written by a UCL Student. And then he gets a job as a scriptwriter for Seven Arts because of that. And it's at this point that he begins the script writing career. He co-wrote Is Paris Burning? He also co-wrote This Property is Condemned. And then it's at this point that Patton, which we covered in a much, much earlier episode, he starts writing the script for. Now, I'm going to leave it here because I think at this point, he makes this first, not his first feature, but the big thing he does next is it's called You're a Big Boy Now. And this is his UCLA thesis project, which I don't know, it gets a distribution, and it's just like one of these weird things where I guess if you go to the right school and have stuff screened for the right people, your thesis project can be released by Warner Brothers.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
a way in.
Critically received. Geraldine Page was nominated for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe. And anyway, so at that point, I just feel like, I like Scorsese. I can't. There's too much to cover. That was already a lot. That was a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be. It's fine.
But I feel like this is all the sort of, this is all the building blocks that lead you somewhere else, and out. And I'm always really curious about just how people, where they started, and how it worked. Anyway,
it's annoying how much you care.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm teasing. That was a joke.
Okay, who's your best supporting player?
Hey, Tom Cruise did a backflip in this.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
you like that?
So yeah, I liked it.
All right,
I liked that. No, I think Diane Lane was. I really liked. I really liked her.
You did good, Pony Boy.
Yeah. She's not in it very much.
No, she's not.
She's really not. This is really the guys.
Yeah.
But they're all so. I don't know. They're all pretty important. Well, I don't know. Maybe Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think I just didn't. I wasn't as invested in certain. There's so many other characters at a certain point.
Totally.
Yeah.
I just put down Tom Waits because he's for exactly one line.
You like Tom Waits.
I love Tom Waits.
Yeah.
He runs the Roadhouse. Which
yeah.
I know we're going to talk about Eve's Bayou next week, but it's funny. Like both of these movies had like a Roadhouse scene, and I'm like starting to now appreciate like. Oh, the difference between a bar and a roadhouse. Like a roadhouse is like you put a bar in a house. You turn a house into a bar.
Yeah.
And like that's what made The Outsiders, them knocking on the door, so strange. It's like, why are you knocking on the door up? Oh, okay. It's not really a bar. It's
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse. Which of course, Swayze would know something about.
Yeah.
Roadhouse. Would you watch this again?
Not necessarily by choice.
Yeah,
I think I was engaged. There's just again really great. There's some really great shots in this. I understand its nostalgic value. I think it just didn't have a significant impact on me. Mm-hmm. No, and if it was on, I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure. But I'm not.
Again, I'm not going to actively watch this again. But it's one of those things that, again, I think I've described this. If I was in a bar and it was on, and you couldn't hear the sound, and I was drunk, I would loudly start telling the person next to me exactly what's happening.
This is a great example of that kind of movie.
He's gonna get stabbed. See?
Yeah.
Yep. Right there.
Yeah, if the dark room was still open on Melrose, and then how they would play random shit.
It's the best.
No, it was nice because I had a lot of social anxiety.
Yeah.
With my little Groundlings classmates and shit, and then we'd be there, and then I could just like look at the TV.
And no one's like, "What are you watching?" No, you're watching the movie.
Yeah.
Best thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't even need to be silent.
I would prefer something else was on instead of this, but I would still watch it.
Do it for Johnny.
Yeah.
I would scream that at the bar.
I think it's like I wanted,
Be asked to leave, sure.
I don't know.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good on this one. I'm glad I saw it, though. I am glad I saw it.
Right.
And it was, you said we didn't mention this, but some of the reviews focused a bit on the scene where Rob Lowe comes out of the shower.
Oh, there's another Letterboxd review that was about the Rob Lowe. Yeah, you were into that.
Saw,
yeah.
Well, yeah. I was into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. A lot of people like
a lot of skin.
A lot of ladies like that.
A lot of skin.
They like that Lowe guy.
You can kind of like see the outline of his dick a little bit.
Okay.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah,
Am I
I
a
see why
pervert?
people like
Am
it.
I a pervert? I'm
No,
sorry.
I think you're just part of the 82% favorable Rotten
Yeah.
Tomatoes score versus the 60. Is
Yes.
it 67, 69?
Yeah.
69, feeling fine.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. He's not the most attractive one in it, though. That's the funny thing. I don't know.
Oh, who is to you?
That's what I was
Is
just-
it Tom Waits?
I'm maybe actually. I'm reviewing that in my head right now. I'm like, who's the best looking?
I don't know. None of them really did it for me.
None of them.
I just didn't care. I was
do
like,
think-
Chelsea's not.
Well,
she's-
and we're kind of old. Like we're not supposed to be.
she don't find these guys attractive.
We're not supposed to be deciding probably. So
Oh sure,
Not
sure.
even-
yeah.
not even to
Yeah,
balance it
yeah.
out.
No Team Jacob or Team Edward
Yeah.
nonsense.
yeah. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate all of you for
Thanks
listening.
for listening.
You can follow us on the social medias at the various places at Fresh Movie Pod. You can email us at abreathoffreshmovie@gmail.com. You can write us a review.
You can dream.
You can dream.
You can make your own rice.
You could just put on this episode, leave it on, and leave the room and just let it play, you know?
If a tree falls in the forest,
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But I do it.
But
do it for Johnny.
Do it for
It's so
Johnny.
fucking. It's like the only line I can.
I know.
I can remember.
That's it.
It's
And
because
stay
you like
golden.
it.
And stay golden. Yeah.